Kevin Warren did an interview, and can you throw that tweet back up again that we had earlier in the show from Brett McMurphy? And he paraphrased this even down to get it in Twitter, but Kevin Warren told Real Sports HBO he sees the Big Ten having 20 members and paying players. Those are things we have to resolve. We have to. So I want to be part of this conversation, and we'll be part of this conversation what we can do to make this better. So fill in the blanks there a little bit, Craig.
There's a lot of blanks, and all due respect to Brett McMurphy, I don't think that really tells the tale of what Kevin Warren said. I mean, it does summarize it, but basically Bryant Gumbel, I think that, Bryant Gumbel's certainly not like us in a daily position of looking at realignment in college football and things like that. So I don't expect him to have the same types of questions that like a college football diehard would have, but I do think he left them so open-ended that we really did not get a ton of answers. At least we didn't get clear, concise answers. We got just confirmation of what we all sort of expected to begin with, because there is no question that we've all had the feeling that the Big Ten is not done expanding. But the real question, right, that we all have, I believe everybody would agree, is, okay, to what number? And obviously that's also okay with what schools, but really I think people want to know, if they can know one thing, it's like, what is the end game for the Big Ten? Do you want to be a 20-team conference? Do you want to be a 24? Do you want to be a 32? And at this point, like, you're barely even a conference. You're basically turning into a league, which I don't know if that's really great or not, but that's what would have been great to know, and we really didn't get an answer on that because of the way it was asked. Well, let's start off, though, with the paying players. Bryant Gumbel says everybody's getting rich now off college sports. Networks are getting rich, administration, schools are getting rich, coaches get rich. You know who won't be getting rich off of the athletes? When are you going to start paying them? And Kevin Warren said, one of the things I'm excited about is being able to have the honest dialogue with our student athletes. Have there been little changes that have been made? Yes, but we need to really sit down and start getting these issues on the table and start making some decisions. And then he's asked if he could foresee paying players, and he said yes. And Bryant Gumbel says, so you could foresee the day when Michigan, Michigan State, and Indiana and Wisconsin are paying their football players, paying their basketball players because they are in revenue producing sports. And he said, those are the things that we have to resolve. We have to. So I want to be part of this conversation, and we'll be part of this conversation of what we can do to make this better. So everybody runs off, Big Ten's going to pay and like, is there anything in there that says that they're certainly going to do that?
I'll tell you what it sounds like to me is someone who is trying to stave off unionization.
Sure does.
And
doesn't have an answer for all of that just yet. And is just saying, like, I know I can't say, no, we don't want to do that, but I also know that we don't have anything in place to fully say, like, yes, and here's how we're going to do it. I think this is very much a work in progress in his head right now.
Yeah, and look, and that's actually the most true thing you can say. But, like, he's very savvy to the fact that if you were going to try to go against the grain and try to make college football what it was, the wood chipper that you're walking into is not worth it. So, which it's only going to make people who want to unionize the players emboldened even further. And that's probably inevitable regardless of this, but you can have some agency in it if you are willing to talk. If you're not willing to talk, that's when you get like people at loggerheads, and it gets really bad.
And that's when you have the John Ruiz's leading the charge for players and suddenly becoming even more powerful and getting more involved. And, I think you would like to avoid that at all costs. And, you would like to maintain some control. So, by leaving it open and say, oh, we're working on it, then people are like, oh, see there, how progressive. And the Big Ten's working on it. Like, he didn't give a date. He didn't say for sure it's going to happen. But I think, he knows he can't say, no, we're not going to do that. And I think he also knows that that's his advantage right now, among other things, is the fact that there is this thought now, at least out there, that they are going to be the progressive conference that's going to lead the charge there. And quite frankly, with their TV deals, they can afford to do it in a way that really no one else outside of the SEC, in theory, would be able to do it. So if you are really trying to collapse like half of college football or college sports for that matter, you are in a position to be able to do that. Like, he doesn't have the full infinity gauntlet on his hand right now, but he's got like 3 of the stones, I think, or 4 of them out of the 5. And I think he realizes that. But that is an advantage that he kind of has because of the money being thrown out there, that if somebody were going to do it, you would think it would be the Big Ten. And so why not keep that card close to the vest? Don't play it until you have to, but know that it is an advantage you have right now to kind of keep hold over the sort of the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think one of the funny arguments that was made before, because when you said...
that's a complicated thing, man, we're talking about. Starting to pay players like regular.
Yeah, like employee, like that's really complicated.
Yes.
But one of the arguments, and I do like that he's not trying to make this one, was, you know, when they started making TV deals a few years ago, they were all of a sudden, so you're in the news and you're making hundreds of $1 million TV deal. And then when the players say, hey, why don't we get you that money? The argument was like, well, it's complicated. Like, by the time you got it, it wouldn't really be that much. Right. And they're like, but right now I get zero. So I don't, like, whatever you're going to say. Like, right now I'm starting at zero. You're getting all of it, and I'm getting zero. So if there was, you know, even dividing it 80 ways, if I'm still going to get more money than zero, let's start talking about this.
Oh, when you get it, it'll only be $10, but like I have $0, so 10 would actually be like pretty good for me.
Yeah. So those are the arguments. Well, what Kevin Warren is doing here, and again, you do not want, if unionization is inevitable, you do not want an angry union.
And dude, I think that backfires in a major way if it comes to, I don't know, maybe not, but I just feel like we start getting into that territory. Well, I just think a lot of people are going to lose interest.
Part of the thing is that if you want to head that off of the past, one of the arguments you can make is most people in unions aren't 18 years old. You know, they're older and they've established and they have life experience that can tell them, you know, certain things and how to kind of direct things. And, you know, if there's a union of college athletes, then that's going to have to be run by somebody who has some life experience. No offense to younger people, but believe me, you don't know what you don't know right now. And if I had to deal with unionization issues at 20 years old, I would have just been like, what does the manual say in the shortest way possible to tell me? I don't know how to deal with this, you know? So those are things that people really have to wrap their heads around. And so if he's going to be out in front of that, then I think that's a good idea for him, and the rest of the conferences need to follow suit in getting to that point.
Yeah, let's circle back though, because that's down the road.
Yeah.
Like, again, that's another thing where we can like speculate all we want to on what unionization in college sports would look like, but like that's not even on the front presses right now. So yeah, how they figure that out will be interesting. Kevin Warren's obviously leaving that door open because the dumb thing to do would be to close that door. So he's leaving that open, but like anything like, oh, they're unionizing or they're going to start paying players, like I think they realize that's inevitable in some form or fashion. I don't know if that's unionization, but Kevin Warren is just acknowledging it, and he's kind of saying the same thing that I believe, and I don't follow him on a daily basis. So if you're a Big Ten fan who like listens to everything Kevin Warren says, I might miss a couple spots, and you can fill those in for me. But I believe that's basically what he's maintained in all his recent comments regarding the payment of players on a regular sort of payroll type of a deal. So that's where we are. Nothing really earth-shattering other than like he's open to talking about things. The other part of that too is if it's going to happen, as we've heard many people tell us, the players are the ones that are in charge of it. Mm-hmm. Like they're the ones that have to unionize and get together and all that. It's not going to be like the adults come in and say, all right, everybody just sign this paper. You're all in this union. Like, no, the athletes are going to have to lead that charge. And that's where it's like super complicated because think about how diverse you're talking about sports-wise, just people-wise, belief-wise, all that stuff. So anyway.